Hello friends, today we are going to take up the issue of untouchability. It is also one of the subtopic under caste system. We have already discussed some of the features of caste system. We have also discussed some of the perspectives related to caste system. So we now have a rough idea about untouchability. In this session, we are going to take it further. We'll understand the different forms and different perspectives specific to untouchability. This term untouchability, what kind of emotions, what kind of feelings comes to your mind when you hear this particular term? Untouchability refers to one of the most inhuman forms of exploitation, discrimination, which was part of the Indian society. And to some extent now also, untouchability exists. It has definitely decreased, but some aspects of untouchability are prevalent now as well. I'm not saying everywhere it is prevalent, but yes, there are pockets, parcels where it is prevalent. Maybe the most crude version of untouchability that used to be practiced in the past is not there. Untouchability might be practiced in some other forms right now. So what we will do in this session is, first we will understand the root of untouchability, what is the meaning of untouchability, what are different theories related to origin of untouchability, how it is coming into being. Then what were some of the dimensions here? We try to understand that. What are some thinkers saying about untouchability? What are some of these prominent people, for example, Gandhi, Ambedkar, what they did about untouchability, what they felt can be done to handle untouchability? So the entire session will revolve around it. Meaning, origin, features, dimensions, and what were some of the suggestions by people like Gandhiji and Ambedkar. So we'll start with the topic, and first we will understand what is the meaning of untouchability, when was it used for the first time. Now, when we use this term untouchability, we should know from when onwards this term was used. Now, untouchability, for the first time, this term was not used a long back. The practices were there, but giving it a term as untouchability is quite a new thing. First time it is being used by Maharaja of Baroda when he was addressing the depressed class mission. Maharaja of Baroda was known for his social reform related work. So he was tackling untouchability. So he was addressing the depressed class mission, and there he used the term untouchability. Before that also lower caste existed. Before that also different inhuman treatment was given to meted out to people who were considered lower in the caste hierarchy. But for the first time, the term untouchable, the way it is used now, has been used by Maharaja of Baroda. Now, the term untouchability, for that, other terms are also used. You can understand untouchable, or the people who are considered untouchable. For them, at different points of time, different names are used. For example, they were referred to as Panchamma, the fifth category. You have the four categories: Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudras. The fifth category, Panchamma. So untouchables have been referred to as Panchamma. They have also been referred to as Avarna. Others, the remaining castes, they are called Savarna. And those who are considered to be untouchables, they are considered as Avarna. Hutton, in his work Castes in India, refers to those who are being treated as untouchables as exterior caste. Ambedkar, in his initial writings, when he's starting up, at that point of time, he refers to this category of people as Bahishkrit Samaj. But in the later writings, you will find that he uses the term untouchable. He has also used the term Ashat Shudras. Gandhiji used the term Harijan, the children of God. Britishers, they used to refer to those who have been traditionally denied us a place in the Indian society, a rightful place in the Indian society. They used to refer to them as the depressed classes. The Government of India Act, 1935, it called them scheduled castes. And members who are a part of this community, they refer to themselves as Dalit. Those who have been downtrodden, who have been suppressed, Dalit. So, for untouchables, these are the different kind of words which have been used. So whenever you come across any of these words, keep this in mind that it refers to a certain section of population in the Indian society who had been discriminated for a very long time, who had been considered untouchable. It was assumed that their touch can defile, their touch can pollute. Now, what exactly is untouchability? What are the different dimensions of untouchability? Now, when I say the term untouchability, does it mean a physical touch? Does it mean that only if you're touching someone physically, you will get polluted? Or does it have some more connotations to that? Now, just keep this in mind. When we use the term untouchability, it refers to physical segregation. It refers to avoidance of physical contact. It refers to staying away from an individual who can pollute you. So that you have to maintain a social distance. That is there. But it is not only about the physical contact. When we use the term untouchability, it also refers to different kind of social sanctions on the people who are considered untouchable. It refers to different kind of disabilities. So social segregation is also a part of untouchability. For example, in many villages, now also it is prevalent. Previously it was even more common. The places where the Dalits will be staying, generally they will not be staying within the center of the village. They will be staying somewhere outside. Andre in his studies of a village in Tanjore, he also finds that the Dalit members, they are staying outside. The Adi Dravidas, they are the ones who are staying outside the village. They're staying in the periphery. So, and they will have different kind of restrictions. For example, they're not supposed to enter into the village during the morning hours or evening hours because their shadows can be long and it can also touch someone and pollute someone. So, other social sanctions were also part of it. So, untouchability refers to this as well, the social sanctions and social segregation. And untouchability is ascriptive in nature. That means a person is born in a particular caste on the basis of a very biological thing like childbirth. On that basis, you are saying that this person has become polluted. This person is polluted and you should stay away from this person. And you put different kind of social sanctions on this person. This person is not supposed to enter into temple. This person is supposed to behave in a particular manner. When you meet someone from the higher caste, he should in fact try to avoid contact. And even if he's meeting someone, he should behave in a particular manner. If he's talking with someone, he should behave in a particular manner. So different social sanctions are also part of untouchability. Restrictions on physical contact, that is also part of untouchability. Both the things constitute untouchability. Now, what are some of the underlying notions under untouchability? What are the things which are actually happening through this mechanism of untouchability? It is a mechanism which excludes people. Certain sections of the population, you are excluding them from the social discourse. They are not part of the regular society. For example, there are restrictions on people on their work. You cannot work during the morning hours. You can only work in the evening hours. These kind of restrictions are also there. So your day-to-day activities are getting impacted by that process. It is a mechanism of humiliation. It is a mechanism of subordination. For example, there used to be certain castes who cannot refer to themselves as I. They will refer to them as the higher caste slaves. Your slave wants this to be done. I don't want this to be done. That particular members of those particular caste will say, in the opinion of your slave, it is like this. If there is a question from the members of the higher caste. So you are also degrading yourself. This mechanism that is there, it degrades an individual. It is a threat to an individual's dignity. And it's also a mechanism of exploitation. Different kind of exploitations are there. Physical exploitation, economic exploitation, sexual exploitation also used to take place. Some castes used to be there, the lower caste. They were not, the women in those particular castes, they were not allowed to cover the upper part of their bodies. So they were exploited as well. So this entire mechanism, the entire schema, it revolves around all these things. It excludes certain section of the population, it humiliates them, it subordinates them, it also exploits them. Now, if you look at it, Untouchability has again two dimensions here. One dimension is, yes, there are a lot of restrictions on those people who are at the bottom of the population. So those who are the Avarna, those who are considered to be the exterior caste, the depressed classes, Dalits, on them there is a lot of restrictions. But some other thinkers, they say that untouchability impacts each and everyone. It is not just restricted to the Avarna members. Avarna, they were definitely restricted. There was physical segregation as well as there were different kinds of social sanctions. But some thinkers, they feel that each and every member in the society faces some sort of sanctions at different points of time. For example, a Brahmin also faces different kind of social sanctions. For example, whenever there's a death in the family of the Brahmin, so at that point of time, they are also not supposed to go to the temples. The restriction that is there on Avarna is they cannot go to the temples, but the restriction that is there on Brahmin is for a limited duration. Similarly, whenever a female is menstruating, so at that point of time, she is also not supposed to go to the temples. She's not supposed to carry out these rituals related to different prayers and all these things. So for her as well, there is different kind of religious, social disabilities, but this disability will exist for a temporary duration, 4-5 days per month. The remaining period of time, she can go to the temples. So what they are saying is, this mechanism, untouchability, is integral in the caste system. Everyone faces some sort of disability. But the difference for the Avarna is, for them the impurity is permanent in nature. They're permanently impure. They have to face all the disabilities throughout their life. But for others, this will be for a limited duration. For the Brahmins, during certain occasions, for example, whenever there is a death in the family, at that point of time. For the women, it is also for a very specific period, not always. So it is relative in nature. For some it is permanent, for some it is temporary. For Avarnas, for the Dalits, it is permanent. Throughout their life, they will have this kind of an exploitation. So this is another dimension of untouchability. Now, what about the incidents of untouchability? Do they exist now? What is the case? So some of the studies which point out that yes, untouchability is quite prevalent. For example, Prashad studies different villages in Andhra Pradesh, around 50 villages in Andhra Pradesh, and says that there are around 50 different kinds of untouchability practiced. So physical segregation as well as social sanctions. All if you include, there will be around 50 types of untouchability. There's also a study by Ghansham Shah, Harshmandan, and Sukhdev Thorat. Now, their sample size is even larger. They are studying around 565 villages, 11 states, and they are saying that 80% of the villages have some form of untouchability. And they're saying that the extreme form of untouchability, those things have declined, but it is manifested in some form of other. The most extreme type of untouchability, or one of the most extreme dimensions of untouchability, is physical violence. And physical violence against a member of the Dalit community, against the members of these Avarna community, has been increasing. As per the National Crime Records Bureau, in the 10 years between 2006 to 2016, the incidence of violence against Dalits has increased by 25%. Now, yes, it can have multiple dimensions as well. Some people say that maybe the reporting of crime has increased, maybe violence has not increased. So that dimension can also be there here. But the number of reported cases, it has increased by 25%. Whatever be the reason for increase in incidents, the fact here is violence is also there against the member of the Dalit community, and it is a mechanism. It is also one of those things which will come under untouchability. Now, what we will do is, we will look at the different types, different forms of untouchability. How untouchability is practiced in different kind of spheres. Now, a most common type of untouchability is segregation of habitats. If you are part of this community, you will be staying here. You should not be staying within the center of the village. Generally, in the periphery, you will be given a place. One example I can give you from Bollywood. If you have watched and you remember watching the movie Swadesh, then you would have observed Shah Rukh Khan goes to the place of a person who is considered Dalit in the society, and he used to stay outside the village. So generally, people who are from these Dalit backgrounds, they will not be given a due share within the village. So generally, in the outskirts or the periphery, they will be staying. Occupation. Now, certain occupations are considered to be lowly. Certain occupations will not be having very good compensation, and these occupations are also considered to be dirty menial. Now, generally, we will find that people who are from Dalit background, people who are from the Dalit communities, they are the ones who are concentrated in certain occupations. For example, manual scavenging, leather tanning. Now, manual scavenging, there was a study which pointed out that 98% of those who are engaged in manual scavenging are from Dalit background. So, concentration of people in certain occupations. Then there are a lot of restrictions when it comes to accessing basic civic facilities. For example, accessing bathing facilities or accessing drinking water facilities. So there also people face different kind of restrictions. This is something which is prevalent now as well. Different studies point out that even in small restaurants or hotels in village areas, there will be different kind of cups. A particular kind of cup will be there for who are not from the Dalit background, and those who are from the Dalit background. Cups, utensils, they are also segregated. Rituals. Entry into temples had been restricted for the Dalit members for a very, very long period of time. Social sanctions were there, so they were restricted to enter into temples. And in southern part of India, there were different kind of temple entry movements. They wanted to have the right place within the religious space as well. In fact, these kind of challenges we face now as well. For example, within the last couple of years, in Uttarakhand, a particular BJP leader, he tried to mobilize people from the Dalit background so that they can enter into the temples, but they were also beaten up. And one more example from Bollywood here, there was a movie in the last 2 years, Manji was the name of the movie. There also there is a particular scene in which the members of the Dalit community, they are trying to enter temple, but they are all beaten up by those who are higher up in the social hierarchy. So entry into temples was restricted. Reading, studying those scriptures, it was restricted. Upanayana ceremony, that is restricted only for the twice born caste. Apart from that, certain rituals or certain practices have been there, which again goes against the interest of the Dalit members. For example, in Hindu society, there is prevalence of Devdasi system. Though it has been banned by law, but it still exists. A couple of years back, someone had filed a PIA, the Supreme Court of India, they came to notice that in Karnataka, in a particular district, the Devanagari district, still now Devdasi system is being carried out. And they had issued directions to the government to ensure that these kind of discriminatory practices are not there. Now, what is exactly Devdasi system? Devdasi system means, it is also referred to as temple prostitution. That means certain girls who are very young, they are donated to the temple. Now, once they are in temple, they are said to be the wife of the deity over there, wife of the god over there. And they are supposed to take care of the god, they are supposed to provide different kind of services to the temple. But what actually happens is, there is temple prostitution. Generally, the members who are higher up in the hierarchy, they are the ones who will molest them, they will use them for different kind of sexual benefits. So it is nothing but temple prostitution. It is referred to as temple prostitution. So it has been banned, but it still continues in different forms. And it has been observed that most of the times, the Devdasis, they will belong to the poorer section of society, and they will belong to the Dalit backgrounds. So these certain cultures, certain traditions, they also go against the interest of the Dalit members. When it comes to marriages, there are a lot of taboos. In case of India, we have caste endogamy. People marry within the same caste. There is a lot of restrictions in intercaste marriages. And in recent times, it has also been observed, and it was there before as well, but in recent times also we are observing it, that in case there is marriage outside the caste, and if one of the member is from the Dalit community, there can be honor killing. When it comes to Kha Panchayats, they have also ruled against intercaste marriages. Kha Panchayats are extra legal entities, but still they hold strong in certain areas. And this practice of honor killings, even among affluent sections, is a very scary phenomenon which has come to light in recent times. Apart from that, members who are from the lower caste, they were also prevented from participating in politics. Their access to power structures have been denied for a very long time. But post-independence, we are drafting our constitution, we are having universal electoral franchise. Everyone has equal vote. Every individual has the same number of vote, one vote per individual, provided you have crossed the age of 18 years. But it has also been found that many times people from the Dalit community, they will be pressurized to vote for a particular candidate. Those kind of torture, humiliation also exists. So pressure from the dominant caste. There is also discrimination when it comes to the markets. There is also discrimination when it comes to the economy. Generally, members from Dalit communities, they are also paid less. Many of them are engaged in casual labor, so they do not have any social security. Their salaries are low. Many of them might be working as bonded laborers. Now, what is bonded labor? Now, a particular individual might have taken loan from a moneylender. He's not able to repay the loan on time. The rate of interest is very high. So that person has to work for the moneylender till the point of time he's able to compensate for the loan and the interest. His work is able to compensate for the principal amount and the interest. But sometimes it so happens that this amount, the rate of interest is so high that even if people work for their entire life, then also they're not able to repay it. And sometimes it can happen that the next generation is also working for the same family. So that kind of labor is called bonded labor. You are bonded, you are just working for one particular individual and you are not even getting the benefits there. So bonded labor, it has been abolished by our constitution. We also have different laws to prevent bonded labor, but despite that, bonded labor continues. As I told you, violence is one of the most extreme manifestation of untouchability. Crimes against Dalits has continued, and crimes against Dalits, as I pointed out, has increased in the last 10-12 years. And one thing here, there are different kind of crimes against Dalit. Sometimes two male members of the society, one from the Dalit section, another from the dominant caste, might have had a quarrel or might have had some issue, but the wife of the Dalit member might be impacted. She might be stripped naked and paraded throughout the village. And sometimes it also happens that there's a conflict between two individuals in the village. But as a result, entire community, apart from the Dalit section, the entire village will boycott the Dalit community. Different kind of social economic boycott can be imposed on them, on the entire community, for an incident which involved only one Dalit member. So these kind of incidents also keep on happening, and if you have been reading newspapers, you might have come across these incidents quite frequently. In recent times, there has also been lynching. Dalit members have also been flogged for carrying the carcass of dead animals. Una incident, some 4 or 5 Dalit members, they were tired and they were beaten up. Allegation was there that they were going to consume cow meat, but again, different other reports are also there which said that they were actually carrying the carcass of dead animals. So their culture might be different. Their practices might be eating practices, right practices might be different, but that has also created issues for them when there is a rise of a particular kind of majoritarianism in the society. So these are some of the manifestations of untouchability. Now, but all these things that we discussed, the segregation that we're talking about, the social sanctions that we're talking about, so all of these things are also selective in nature. For example, people used to maintain social distance, they used to segregate it, but at some point of time, the services of the Dalit members was also required. For example, if there is any marriage ceremony or specific functions are there, so certain members of the Dalit community, they will play certain equipments, musical equipment, instruments, so their service will be rendered, is required at that point of time. So it is selective. Not always the concept of physical distance, social distance is maintained. Some places their help is also taken, their service is also taken. Now, this entire schema that we are talking about, maintenance of distance, social sanctions, this entire schema is not uniform throughout the country. At different pockets, different regions, there will be multiple variations. Just think about it, there was no such central authority in case of India to impose this thing. So at different places, different rules, regulations will be there. Another very important dimension is the impact of untouchability on women. The impact of untouchability on women who are considered to be untouchable. Now, if women are considered untouchable, that means the other members of the community, they should ideally maintain social distance, physical distance from them. So that should have been a shield for them against sexual exploitation. If the touch of someone is polluting, that means they will never be touched. There will not be any sexual exploitation which involves physical touch. But it was not the case. Exploitation of Dalit women continued. They were raped, they were molested, different kind of humiliation they were subjected to. So all these concept of pollution purity was not applicable, was not acting as a shield for Dalit women. Also, untouchability is leading to economic deprivation among Dalit members. Why they are economically deprived? Now, there is restriction on occupation. You cannot change your occupation. And generally the occupation that the untouchables used to take up, generally the occupation which is assigned to the untouchables, the rewards are not that much. The rewards are also very less. So over a period of time, there will never be any social mobility. Apart from that, there were other restrictions. For example, on some castes, there were these restrictions that you cannot move out in the daytime. You can only work at night. So all these things will impact their mobility. Also, they are not the traditionally landed class, so they are landless. They are denied access to education. So because of all these things, they are deprived. They are economically deprived. They are educationally deprived. They are economically deprived. They are the landless. So untouchability had all these dimensions. All these things are integral part of untouchability. But the question here is, how untouchability came into being? What is the origin of untouchability? How it has evolved over a period of time? Now again, here there are different opinions. Different thinkers have done their own researches and we will find multiple opinions. So what we will do is, we will look at all these perspectives which are the predominant perspectives. Now, Vivekananda, he talks about the evolution of this concept of untouchability. And he basically traces it in the different Hindu scriptures. He says that for the first time, this thing is observed, practices related to untouchability are observed in the 6th century BC. The text at that point of time, they talk about certain terms like chandals, tanners, and they were considered to be objects of abhorrence. People used to avoid them, people used to hate them. So first time, certain communities have been referred like this, 6th century BC. Now 400 BC, the Dharmashastras, they're also talking about transmission of infection. Panini's grammar talks about nirbhasita. Now nirbhasita refers to those whose touch can pollute pots. Also, there were instances which mention that different castes are staying in separate areas, separate quarters. So during 400 BC, these notions have also started emerging. Later on, in Vishnu Smriti, Apurusha has been specifically mentioned. It refers to those who are untouchables. And over a period of time, there is emergence of sharp demarcation and segregation in the society. And by the 3rd century BC, it was quite a predominant phenomenon. So from the 6th century BC, where we see the emergence of terms like Chandals, to 400 BC, where we come across the terms like Nirbhasika, then Apurusha, and by 3rd century BC, it has become quite predominant. Now, B.R. Ambedkar's perspective about untouchability is a little different. Now, he's talking about what is referred to as the broken man theory. His theory is called the broken man theory. Now, what is it? Now, he says that untouchability resulted after a war. Now, there was a war. In this war, there were some group of tribes who were defeated, and they were fragmented later on. Now, so these people who were defeated, this group of tribes who were defeated, who were fragmented, they did not agree to assimilate with the mainstream population. They were not ready to merge with the mainstream population, and they maintained their identities, and their practices, their identities were different. They were the ones who are following Buddhism. They were also the ones who used to consume beef, meat. So their practices were different. Now, others in the society who are victorious, now they are keeping a distance. They are preventing mingling of cultures. They are considering these broken men as untouchable. Broken men who have lost the wars. So prevention of mixing is there, and generally the broken men were not allowed to stay within. They had to stay within at the outskirts. So as a result of war, the people who are defeated, they are the broken men. They're not ready to be part of the mainstream. Their practices are different. Religious practices, dietary practices are different. Those who are victorious, they're trying to maintain distance. They're keeping them segregated. Generally, they were staying outside. So the next perspective is provided by Louis Dumont. You already know what he has talked about. We know about his most important work, Homo Hierarchicus. So there is another perspective provided by Louis Dumont, and we already have some idea what Louis Dumont talked about. So the same thing here with respect to untouchability. Now, what is Louis Dumont saying? Now, the model that has been provided by Louis Dumont is referred to as the unity model. Now, according to Louis Dumont, the entire society is integrated, and Dalits, untouchables, they are also an integral part of the Hindu society. They are part of the common culture. They are part of the common heritage. Now, what he's saying is Dalits are part of the common society. They're part of the Hindu society, and he says that when you're looking at untouchability, don't compare it with other similar kind of segregation phenomena in different parts of the world. He's rejecting the comparative methods to understand untouchability. Now, there have been different methods which compared. There were studies which compared untouchability with apartheid. Now, he's saying that you should not compare these things. They are two different things. Now, apartheid, if you're trying to study, you are studying using those concepts, the concepts that are used in the Western society, the modern society. But what is different in Indian society is the ideas, the values, the culture. He's saying that when it comes to Indian society, our ideas, our values are different. Hierarchy in Indian society and hierarchy in Western society, they're two different things. In Western society, if there is hierarchy, it basically refers to exploitation. It can refer to discrimination. It can refer to subjugation. But in case of Indian society, hierarchy is not bad. In fact, hierarchy can even be considered as virtue. Hierarchy is that mechanism by which a group or an individual tries to find his or her position in the entire social schema where they stand. So untouchability is also part of it. And he's saying everyone is facing untouchability. It is not that only one particular community is facing untouchability. He's saying everyone faces untouchability to some extent. For example, a Brahmin also faces it. Brahmin, when there's a death in the family, they will have to face, there will be some sort of restrictions on the different kind of rituals that are carried out. They cannot enter into temples at that point of time. So they also face restrictions. Women also face restrictions. And some communities, they face even more restrictions. So there's a hierarchy, there's a gradation, the amount of restrictions you face. So he feels that this is part of the entire value system and everyone follows that. He feels that those who are considered untouchables, they also have belief in untouchability. All are placed in the whole and you just try to locate your position in that whole. And everyone is subjected to different kind of disabilities. So the fundamental values of Indian society and the fundamental value of the modern society is different. So we should judge Indian society by its own value system. For Indian society, hierarchy is not something which is bad. For modern society, it can be bad. So that is the reason he's saying untouchables are integral part. Untouchability is part of our culture. Those who are considered untouchables, they also believe in it. So this is a different kind of perspective given by Louis Dumont. But his perspective has been criticized on multiple counts. For example, Berman says that whatever his notion is, it is basically a Brahminical view of caste. You are looking at it from the Brahminical perspective, and you have not based your opinions on the basis of empirical reality. You have just focused on some text, and on that basis of that, you are saying it. You have focused on those texts which talk about our traditions, about our culture, and on that basis, you are basing your opinions. You have not gone to the ground, and you have not actually evaluated things, whether those who are considered untouchables, whether they believe in it or they are forced to believe in it. So empirical reality is something different, and he has not focused on that. If you look at the situation on the field, you will find that this entire mechanism is manifested in the form of power and vulnerability. It is manifested in the form of privilege and oppression, in the form of reward and deprivation, security and anxiety. Some members of the community, they are powerful. The higher caste, the Brahmins or the other higher caste, they will be powerful. Those who are untouchables, they do not have any power. They are vulnerable. Some people have security. The Brahmins, they will have different kind of security. But others will have a very anxious existence. Some people are always rewarded, while others, they are always deprived. Different form of deprivation, economic, social, political, in each and every sphere. Some are privileged, some are oppressed. So empirical reality is something different. What the text talk about, that is completely different. Kathleen Goff says that those who are untouchables, they are having a different culture. So their culture, their values are different. Considering them as part of the same value system is wrong. Louis Dumont says that all are part of the same value system, all subscribe to the same values. Kathleen Goff is not accepting this, she rejects this. Bernard Cohen and Pauline Colenda, they talk about the diversity model. Now what they are saying is, those who are untouchables, those who are other castes, they have significant differences. There are a lot of contrasts between the culture of the outcast and the culture of the other caste, who are part of the traditional caste system. But they also observe that those who are considered outcasts, those who are considered untouchables, sometimes they also subscribe to the dominant values. Sometimes they also reject the dominant values. It depends on the circumstances. Sometimes acceptance is there, sometimes rejection is there. For example, Pauline Colenda studied a particular caste of sweepers, and she finds out that they are also accepting certain parts of the culture and the cultural teachings, and they are rejecting some part of these cultural notions. For example, those aspects, for example, karma theory, which justifies your present position, which justifies oppression, they are rejecting that. But if there is any theory which any part of this culture which justifies mobility, they will accept that. So selective acceptance of dominant values is there. So these are certain criticism to Louis Dumont's work. Now we will look at the perspective of Gandhiji and the perspective of Ambedkar. They also had some views about the caste system, specific views, and they had a differing opinion. What Gandhiji said, what Ambedkar is saying, they are different. So what are the perspectives of Gandhiji and Ambedkar? Now what is the perspective of Gandhiji? Gandhiji felt that Varna system is integral to Hindu social organization. So Varna system is important, but he feels that over a period of time, different corrupt practices have come up in the Varna system. Corrupt practices like untouchability. So at present, what exists in reality is different from what is mentioned in the holy text. So empirical reality and the theoretical framework is different. Gandhiji is able to appreciate it. He feels that removal of untouchability is very important, because if untouchability is not removed, then one implication is those who have been considered untouchables, they will always have the resentment. It is going to prevent them from being part of the Indian society. So that is there. Apart from that, it is an inhuman treatment. You have to take care of that. It is something which is completely derogatory. It is dehumanizing. So he's saying we need to remove these corrupt practices of untouchability. We need to remove these inhuman practices. We also have to ensure that those who are considered untouchables should be part of the larger Indian society. And both these things, abolition of untouchability and integration of those considered untouchables, both are very important for achieving Swaraj. He's also saying that each and every work is sacred. No work is inferior. No work is superior. Every work is sacred. So every work should be taken up with utmost devotion. So what was his method to abolish or to handle untouchability? He's saying he's going for reform. He feels that we need to bring about change in the Hindu system. We need to bring about change in the hearts. That means all those castes which had been discriminating against certain sections, we have to bring about change within them. So reform has to be there, and this reform, according to him, is happening among the people. You are bringing about change in the hearts of the people. He's leading by action. He's also himself carrying out things. For example, he used to stay with people who were considered untouchables at that point of time. He used to take meals from them. In fact, he used to call them Harijan. They are not someone who are untouchables, rather they are the children of God. He also wrote a lot of letters, books regarding this, editorials related to this. Caste must go, untouchability as a crime, all these things are his work. So this is the Gandhian notion related to untouchability, that we have to bring about change in hearts, we have to reform Hinduism from within. Ambedkar, on the other hand, had a different opinion. Now, Ambedkar's theory, broken man theory, sometimes lost out in the war. They did not want to be part of the mainstream. Their practices were different. They were segregated. Now, what Ambedkar is saying is, only way we can bring about the change is through political empowerment and legislative measures. People who are considered untouchables, they should have access to power structures. If they are powerful, things will change. The second thing, there should also be laws which are going to protect them from discrimination, which should also uplift them. So legislative measures and political empowerment is very important to handle untouchability. Now, why he says these things are important? Now, he feels that changing people's mind, changing people's heart, changing people's belief is not easy. Doesn't happen. So that is not going to happen. So other option you have is go for this. Legally provide some sort of power, some sort of protection to those who have been considered untouchables. Second thing, they should be the one who should be made, who should get power over a period of time. They should be politically empowered. And he feels that caste system is against a liberal society. A liberal society is on the basis of certain basic ethos. Equality, fraternity, liberty. These are the fundamental ethos of a liberal society. And caste system is completely against that. Caste system does not give liberty to an individual. It is not on the basis of equality. Everyone is different. It is not on the basis of fraternity. Everyone is divided. There are segments. So caste system and a liberal society, they are antithetical to each other. So there is no place for caste system in a liberal society according to Ambedkar. So he's saying we need to remove caste system. He's saying we need to remove religion. It is religion which gives sanctions to caste system. So abolish religion, abolish caste system. He says we need to go for annihilation of caste. Caste should be thrown out. It should be annihilated. One particular thinker, Christopher Zaffellaw, he has studied Ambedkar. He has written a book on Ambedkar. And what he's saying is, what he feels is, Ambedkar basically talks about 3-4 things which needs to be carried out for attacking untouchability. First thing he feels is we need to change history, or we need to interpret history, reinterpret history. History does not give untouchables a good space. So we need to have a favorable reinterpretation of history so that we can create a respectable identity for the Dalits. Secondly, they need to have a space in the politics. Electoral space should be there for them. Apart from that, you need to improve the condition of Dalits with the help of those who are at the top. See, there will be some people who are politically powerful. Now take their help to improve the position of Dalit. Even if it is Congress party, take their help. Even if it is the Britishers, take their help to improve their position. And the last option that you have is convert en masse to some other religion which does not have these kind of segregation. And that is something Ambedkar himself is carrying out in the last phase of his life. Ambedkar, along with some 2 lakh people, got converted to Buddhism, because Buddhism is considered to be a more egalitarian religion as compared to Hinduism. In Hinduism, you have these hierarchy, these segmental divisions. Buddhism does not have it. So around 2 lakh people, along with Ambedkar, got converted to Buddhism in Nagpur. So his strategy involved 4 things. First is creating a respectable space, reinterpreting history, have a space in politics, have favorable coalitions with those who are at the top, who are powerful, who can improve your situation, or else go for mass conversion. Some other suggestions also he had given that these religious places, for example temples, there why are you having Brahmin priests? It should be open for everyone. So the different states, they should go for recruitment of priests on the basis of merit, not on the basis of caste. And this is something which has happened recently as well. Some temples in Kerala now they are having priests who are from the Dalit background as well. He's saying we should promote intercaste marriages. Now if there is intercaste marriage, the next generation, they will not be able to identify with one particular caste. Now since marriages are taking place within a particular community, there is caste endogamy. So these groups, they remain like that. The groups do not change. The groups remain maintained in that particular situation. So what he's suggesting is promote intercaste marriages. In that case, the next generation will not be able to identify with one particular caste. Your identity. So there are different factors which shape your identity. Caste will no longer remain a factor which is going to shape your identity. Maybe your education, maybe your occupation, they will shape your identity. Caste will not shape it. At present, since there are marriages within the same caste, caste still becomes an important factor for your identity. Some states have taken up initiatives to promote intercaste marriages. For example, Madhya Pradesh, there was a scheme. If people are marrying across caste and one of the member is from the background, scheduled caste background, then some sort of monetary compensation was provided. So if you promote these things, then also things might get better over a period of time. So Ambedkar's solution is this: improve political situation, economic situation, things will fall in place. So this is about Ambedkar and his perspective. Now, what have been some of the predominant approaches to address untouchability? Generally, the approaches you will find they fall under two categories. Some approaches will be the reformative approach, the other approach are the alternative movement approach. The reformative movement approach, these approaches, they will try to bring about reforms. They will try to reform the caste system, they will try to reform Hinduism. For example, Gandhi's method will fall under this. Bhakti movement, Neo-Vedanta movement, they will all fall under this. Another kind of approach is alternative movement. Now here you are trying to create an alternative cultural environment. For example, you are becoming part of some other religion. You are changing your own religion. That is going to be part of it. You are basically becoming part of an alternate culture. So those kind of things, those kind of phenomena will fall under this, alternative movements. So we discussed about untouchability. What do we mean by untouchability? What are the different dimensions? What are the different components of untouchability? How untouchability is coming into being? Different theories related to untouchability. Now the last part, where are we heading? Is untouchability decreasing? It is prevalent? It has increased? What is the direction that we are heading towards? Now it is said that at present, those who are untouchables, those who are regarded as untouchables, those who had been regarded as untouchables, at present, they have improved their position, but now also there is exploitation. Previously, they had a stigmatized existence, now they might be having an exploitative life. Things have not completely changed. Yes, to some extent it has decreased, but the direction has been from a situation of stigmatized existence to an exploitative life. So what all changes have happened over the years? Those who were considered Dalits, they were denied entry to temples, they have been demanding their rights to enter into temples. They have demanded their rights to cast votes. They also demanded separate electorates. 1932, Gandhiji and Ambedkar, what was the debate? Have demanded a space in the electoral space as well. There has been reservation for scheduled castes in different elected bodies. For example, in parliament as well as state legislature, you have reservation for Dalits. Untouchability has been declared as illegal. Our constitution also declares it illegal. But now also it is practiced, but it has declined significantly. In urban areas, almost completely it has vanished. And in urban areas, it is very difficult to practice untouchability. One of the characteristic features of an urban area is anonymity. You don't know from which background your neighbor is. Generally, the relations are more utilitarian in nature. They are all transaction based. In villages, you have been there for a very long time. People know what is your caste background. In urban areas, there is a lot of flux. People keep on migrating from one place to another. So identifying someone's background is also not possible. So anonymity is there. So it is very difficult to practice. Apart from that, you have common means of transport, communication. People are in the same bus. How can you practice untouchability? How can you practice social distance in such a scenario? The factory, the top floor, there also you have people from different castes. So there also you cannot maintain social distance. So in urban areas, it has definitely decreased. When it comes to the ritual space, in Kerala, they have started appointing Dalit priests in temples. This is also challenging the hegemony of certain sections of the population. Now, overall, in our society, there is a gradual decline of the ritual hierarchy. Secular status, they are becoming more important. Wealth, power, they are more important now. Which kind of society you are staying in, that is more important now. What kind of vehicle you own, that can be more important now. What is your educational attainment, that is more important now. So secular dimensions of hierarchy, they are gradually gaining ground. Ritual dimension of hierarchy might be losing out. But to some extent, the ritual hierarchy can be important in rural areas. In rural areas, untouchability can exist. But some dimensions also exist in urban area apart from rural area. For example, the wages, there can be differential wages. Sometimes members from the Dalit community might be prevented from displaying Western lifestyle. This is specifically the case in the rural areas. And in case they are reflecting or in case they are displaying Western lifestyle, there can be violence, there can be retaliation. Or in case they are taking up certain social practice which previously the dominant caste used to take up, the higher caste used to take up. Now if the Dalits are taking it up, there can be retaliation. One example, there was a particular person from the Dalit background who wanted to ride a horse in his marriage in Uttar Pradesh. Now riding a horse might not be allowed for those people who are from the lower sections. Only the higher caste, they were allowed to ride horses. He wanted to ride a horse in his marriage procession. So those who are from the higher caste, they opposed it. And his marriage could not happen immediately. It took him somewhere around 30-40 days. After that, with the help of police protection, that marriage procession was there and he rode a horse. So traditionally, those practices in which the higher caste had a monopoly, now if the lower caste start taking it up, there is retaliation, there are threats of retaliation, there is threat of violence. So caste system, untouchability, all these things might have reduced, but they have not become completely zero. Now also they continue in identity forms. So they are not as strong in their forms as they used to be in the past. But people who are from the Dalit background, completely their life has not changed. Now also there is exploitation to some extent. Previously it was stigmatized, now it has moved towards a better condition, but still exploitation continues. So this is about untouchability, the different dimensions of untouchability, the different forms of untouchability, the different perspectives about untouchability, and some of the mechanisms by which we are trying to address untouchability and where we are heading at present. So this sums up our discussion on untouchability. Thank you.